people like this need to get sacrificed. Maybe, who knows, maybe Tom Lee will save them. But, if he is if Tom Lee is one of the last like big marginal buyers left for ETH, it's important as a market participant to understand how much he can buy, how much he is buying, and when he will potentially stop buying.
Yeah, bro. I want to know when if Tom Lee is holding up Ethereum. I want to know when homie runs out of money. If he's the only guy that is putting hundreds of millions of dollars into ETH right now, I have to know when is homie running out of money. Because when he runs out, it's over with, bro. It's over with. Unless I mean, I'm trying to. I mean, I'm telling you, I've been talking about crypto, and the bullish cases I've been getting is about the cycle. Like, oh well, the cycle is still going, and we just need the liquidity needs to come in, and this and that and the other thing. I mean, yeah, it could be that Tom Lee's the only one holding up ETH until we catch up with the M2 money supply, or they print enough money into this coming summer, and quantitative easing actually takes effect, and all these other things. Like, I very well could be just bearish at the lows. I'm not saying I'm not. I'm just saying, or perhaps the it for me it just seems to be, the picture seems to be getting more and more clear that there's really just Bitcoin, and then there's meme coins. It's Bitcoin, and then when people want to get edgy, they go right to brands. They go right to meme coins, and that there's no in between. Altcoins are pretty much high end meme coins that, without actual use and utility, people don't give a shit about. And then there's Ethereum, which has been kind of copied by other layer ones over and over again. And so, I mean, it's something that's kind of right in front of your face if you look at it from that standpoint. Um, but you don't want to believe it. And I don't want to believe it because, again, 15 plus coins on ETH, over $1 million market cap for memes. You know what I mean? Like, ETH is the way to go for me for memes. But if ETH is ass, and we have to keep playing around on Sol for the foreseeable future, I don't know what to say. But let's continue on to what he's saying. He's now getting into. Now he's about to talk about how much does Tom Lee actually have in the coffers? How much money does he actually have to keep ETH up even at these levels? Because he's saying that every time he buys, there's just more sellers coming in. Old sellers. Old holders that are selling.
And I think this is the work that I've been doing over the past few weeks, which is the reason I started adding is because I think he's going to start running out of cash kind of soon. And it's kind of like this analogy where whenever Saylor announces that he buys $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, Bitcoin just dumps because the market understands that he can't just keep buying forever, at least in this regime. So whenever he does buy, it just means that he's going to buy less in the future, right? He's like unloading his clips now, so there's less clips in the future. So when he does, announce that he's buying or he bought, then the market will start pricing in the fact that, oh, okay, those dollars are already in the market. Therefore, there's going to be less dollars in the market in the future. So very PvP. I think money is leaving the ecosystem, unfortunately. So this is this is why we kind of get this type of price action. So let's try to understand how much money BitMine has left. They still have a lot of money left. A month ago, they had 3.5 million of ETH, and they had $600 million of cash. Yesterday, they announced that they have almost 4 million of ETH and roughly $1 billion of cash. So, Tom Lee's doing God's work, right? He's buying ETH and he's raising more cash. How is he doing this? Well, he goes on TV, he shows BitMine, he shows Ethereum, gets people to buy the stock, and then he gets to issue more stock, right? He gets to print more stock, and then he dumps it, and he's been roughly dumping $500 million worth of stocks on BitMine holders, and then he's buying like $300 million worth of ETH. So he kind of reached this equilibrium where there's enough volume and there's enough demand for BitMine.
Yo, if you're a BitMine holder, you're getting crushed by Tom Lee. That's crazy. He's just using you as a bank account.
For him to keep dumping on people. Honestly, I don't really know why people are buying this. If you look at the chart for BitMine, it looks terrible. But I guess maybe I underestimated Tom Lee's brand and his show power and whatnot. I do think he will run out of money at some point, and I do think that this is unstable. Of course, you can argue that markets can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. But any logical brain understands that you can't just keep doing this and just raise infinite money, right? This isn't like, he's not the Federal Reserve, right? He can't just print money. And this kind of ties into like why I think he will eventually stop buying at some point. Tom Lee has a fantastic reputation, right? He's been this bull over the past 10 years. He's been mostly right. And he kind of dunks on people, right? He has a great business, right? He
kind of dumps on people.
I'm sure it's racking up money.
Yeah.
So, why is he risking it? Why is he risking his reputation to just top blast ETH? I've been thinking about this, and I reached this.
Yeah, why is homie out there?
He's doing this because he's gonna be rich, right?
He's gonna be rich,
right? Cash money, baby, right? He's gonna be rich. And Charlie Munger says, "Show me the incentive, and I'll show you the outcome." So let's look at the incentive, and then figure out, how much ETH is he trying to buy. If you look at the SEC filing Schedule 14A for BitMine. I'm not gonna bore you with this, right? I'll just give you the TLDR. If you're interested, you can just look this up on Google, whatever, and then do some Control F, look up some numbers. But basically, the BitMine, if you're like a BitMine shareholder, you want Tom Lee to be incentivized to keep showing this thing, so the thing goes up, right? Essentially, and his performance-based comp is based off of BitMine revenue, percent of ETH accumulated, and BitMine price and market cap. And then once a year, the board can vote if he is eligible for a $5 to $15 million cash-based bonus.
Oh. A $5 to $15 million cash-based bonus in hundies in a black briefcase with those the little gold things, are just like, and they just turn it. They turn it and show Tom Lee. They're like, yeah, Tom. Yeah. 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 They're just like, Yeah, somebody, but you're right, Steve. He says it's crazy, but at the same time, it just goes to show just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you know what to do with it or manage it. I mean, this is a terrible play by BitMine. This is horrendous on its face that they would be buying this much Ethereum and holding the bag. They're essentially holding the bag. They're going to have so much Ethereum, and Ethereum just underperforms on its own. They're going to dump this stuff and try and save their ass. Do you guys ever think about that? Like, this stuff, Ethereum is being bought by them. It doesn't mean they can't sell it and dump it on the market. And I think the thing is, I think what he's going to go into is that once Tom Lee gets this bonus, he's out. He's out. And they're going to run out of money. So either they run out of money, okay? Either they run out of money first, or he gets his cash bonus first. Either way, he's out at a certain point, and he's going to talk about this, where he gets that cash money, there's really no more incentive for him to pump ETH. It's going to be like, at a certain time, he's going to say it's going to be in January, which is crazy, right? January 15th. So imagine Tom Lee at the end of January, and we're like, yeah, Tom Lee's back, and then you're gonna see Tom Lee on CSNBC, and they're gonna be like, Tom, what do you think about Ethereum now? It's like, oh, Ethereum, what? Ethereum? What? What's that? Ethereum? Oh, I was talking about Ethereum. Oh, I don't remember that. I'm a stock guy. I don't remember talking about what's it called again? He's gonna be like so amnesia because he doesn't want to be anything. He's gonna be anywhere near a huge ETH dump and be like, yeah, I'm the guy that told you ETH is going to 60,000. He's not gonna be around for that. You guys understand that? He's gonna be gone. He's gonna be out of here. This is the case that he's trying to say. And when he's out, when Tom Lee is out, and no one else is coming up to represent this weak Ethereum bag, BitMine's gonna dump that. They're gonna dump it and get far away from crypto. They're not gonna stick around. Do you understand? There's no utility to BitMine. They're just buying Ethereum, and that's it. And I think there's some incentive for BitMine to be doing this too with their shareholders. They got to be making. He doesn't go into this, but I kind of thought watching this, there's got to be some sort of incentive for BitMine as well, which could probably be legal or illegal, having to do with their shareholders' money. But they're representing Ethereum super hard. But I tell you what, when Ethereum freaking shows weakness after they stop buying, they're gonna be watching a falling knife, and they're gonna be like, you know what, we're not gonna hold this back while everyone else sells on us. We're not gonna hold this ETH. They're gonna dump it. They're gonna probably dump. They have 4 million ETH right now, and they're probably gonna buy another billion before it's all said and done. They're gonna dump this, bro. They're gonna dump this, dude. I mean, it's just basic finance, covering your ass, you know? So, let's continue. Because this is crazy. And I'll get to the comments.
I mean, first of all, BitMine revenue, it's kind of weird, right? Because if Tom Lee buys 10 billion of ETH and it's paying like 2%, that's $200 million of revenue. I mean, it's not like BitMine is doing anything as a business, right? All it's doing is just like buying stuff, like buying ETH. I mean, at the end of the day, right? It's not my right to complain. It's how, the incentives are structured. So, it is what it is. But if you look at the equity-based comp, you see that once Tom Lee reaches, or BitMine reaches 4% of ETH, he receives 500,000 shares, which is roughly $15 to $20 million in today's price. If he reaches 5% of ETH, he gets $1 million, which is double that. And there's also, compensation based off of stock price and market cap, which he has not reached yet, but, he's getting there. Actually, for him to do this in 6 months, or for him to get close to this in under 6 months, or roughly 6 months, is very, very impressive. Let's talk about the incentives here, right? So he wants to get 4%, 5%, and then he wants to pump the price. All right, cool. That's pretty simple. So Tom Lee is incentivized to ape cash into ETH into year end, because once a year there's a potential cash bonus, right? He wants the metrics to look good, because in the January board meeting he wants to be like, hey, like I've been buying so much ETH, give me $15 million. That makes a lot of sense. He's also less incentivized to buy ETH like this aggressively, right? $300 million a week, like he can't do that forever. He's less incentivized to do so once he does reach the 4 or 5% target, because there's less of a bonus there. Of course, you can argue that he has to keep buying for the price to pump, but you can argue, yeah, there's less of an incentive there, and he's more incentivized to just like pump stuff into year end. And like
into year
honestly,
end,
if that was my cash, or if that was like my compensation,
that's it.
I would pivot my channel and start shilling Ethereum to $69,000, right? I would for sure do that. So game respect game. Tom Lee, I mean, he's done a lot for the space. So, I'm happy that he's getting a bag. I guess it depends how much he's going to be paid and whatnot, but, he's going to be paid. For the cash-based portion, so I showed you, like, the equity-based portion. He can get up to $35 million.
Oh, my... Ah! No! Oh my gosh, this is so bad. This is so bad. This is so bad. $35 million. It just keeps getting higher. The cash out for Tom Lee to shove Ethereum down our throats. Oh my gosh. Imagine, bro, imagine if you needed surgery, right? Imagine if you needed surgery, you need heart surgery, or you were gonna die, and you went to the doctor, and somebody gave them $1 million or even $35 million to make sure that the heart surgery for you didn't go well and that you died. Do you think you would survive that surgery? Do you think you would survive that surgery? No. No. So imagine a guy like Tom Lee with all his credentials and all his accolades over the years of being an amazing, analyst for the stock market. He hops over to crypto for about, bro, he's only been here for about a year. No, he's been here since the summer. I think he's only been here since the summer. Tell you the truth. And he just pops up, and he's all about ETH, and he's shoving ETH down our throats, and then we come to realize homie is getting $35 million potentially at the end of the year, like literally January 15th. He's going to get into that. January 15th, he cashes out. He's going to get so far away from this. You're not even playing. It's crazy.
Consisting of a $15 million upfront payment. And
$15 million
this
upfront
board meeting is going to be January 15th, which is an
January
important date,
15th.
which I'll go over. And you can kind of see at the bottom part, people can vote whether or not Tom Lee can get the $15 million bonus, which honestly, I think he is deserving of a $15 million bonus.
They're going to give it to him.
He pumped the ETH from 2,500 to 4,900, and he's still buying. I mean, if you're an ETH holder, like, you should be happy, right? And if you're a BitMine holder, you should probably be happy. So, I would approve this. I mean, I'm not a holder, but if I was, I would be like, yeah, hell yeah. Tom Lee, I want him on my side. Let's give him more money. But also, right, you can also envision a world in which he eventually becomes a villain.
Yeah, we're going to hate
his
his ass.
2 months ago, people were celebrating him, right? It's like, oh, Tom Lee, he's a visionary. He thinks ETH is going to $22,000. I believe him. But imagine a world next year when ETH is, I don't know, like 50% lower or something, and he's
maybe a
just
little
got
more.
paid. Like, people will probably be upset, right? All this retail, like, buying BitMine because Tom Lee told me to.
You're going to be pissed.
I mean, which is not Tom Lee's fault, right? But, at the end of the day, people will be upset. They'll be left holding the bag while he's going to be, be rich, essentially.
Swimming in cash.
So, I mean, I can definitely imagine a scenario. Although I don't think Tom Lee did anything wrong, right? He's just, trying to make money, I guess.